So today's discussion will be on the big data. We restrict ourselves to big data out of these four mainstream technologies. So we'll go ahead and start with our discussion right away. So the first one to you, Sriram. Do you see that customers are looking at big data more holistically than past, or just leveraging for cost optimization, or they're focusing on more on a business value?
I would think that in the last 18 months, there has been a tremendous shift in big data where I think big data has moved from the conference room to the boardroom, as we call it, right? And we see a lot of shift from a CTO conversation to a CEO-led conversation. Definitely, it's a big shift, and we see tremendous growth in that. And what we also see is that the chairman's office or the CEO office sponsoring big data initiatives. In one of our flagship clients in the business, the BFSI space, the chairman directly funds and reviews the big data programs, and they also have awarded the best big data solution implementations last year for one of our leading credit card companies. So, I mean, to answer your question in short, definitely yes, and we see a lot of business value transformation coming out of it. And what we also see as part of this trend is that our top Fortune 100 clients, they are creating this office called CDO, Chief Data Officer. So we see that as compared to a CIO or a CTO office, we see the CDO office taking everything in data as a lake and a cloud and centralizing it. So we also see creation of new roles at an exec level as well, and CDO directly accessing the office of the CEO. So we see a big paradigm shift in that.
That's great. That's great to know it is moving to the business area from the technology area. That's fantastic. And this is to Jay. Customers, we have all seen tested waters with a lot of open source solutions, multiple tool sets, platforms, distributions, what all. But are you seeing the shift where customers are standardizing on one distribution or a platform? And also, can you also highlight key changes or key challenges which organizations are facing in adopting big data technologies?
Whoa. Can I take a lifeline on that?
Do you want to call a friend or you want to go with the audience poll?
We'll do the audience poll. Guys, you have your voting meters ready? Your hands? Yeah. All right, okay. So, panel, you two, voting meters ready. The next time IBM is going to organize the voting meters, okay? So we'll go with hands now. So, how many of you are familiar with SQL? Wow, okay. How many of you are familiar with MapReduce? Okay, that shows it, right?
You're not going to ask a question on that, right?
Well, if you ask me, one of the biggest impediments to adoption of some of the technologies that you have coming in from the big data space is how do you make it more stream? And we saw it in the audience itself. There were more number of people who are familiar with SQL than MapReduce, and MapReduce is just an example of how you access data from big data platforms. So we clearly see that you have to make these platforms user-friendly, so that means more SQL interfaces. And I think there's a lot of investment that's going in making platforms user-friendly, whether it's SQL interface or whether it's search adoption or search integration. So IBM's got Big SQL, we had Impala from Cloudera, we've got Stinger and Tez coming in from Hortonworks, we've got the Solar integration. So that is going to be one of the major projects that a lot of organizations are going to invest in to make sure that the user access from big data platforms is easy. So that's point number one. That's one point. The second point is going to be around security. And Sriram spoke about banks being one of the big adopters of big data. Completely agree with him. And with that, what is going to happen is most of these guys are going to ask for security. Till now, the platforms have been very open. When I look at Hadoop, for example, security was extremely thin. And you had Kerberos and stuff like that was brought in, but not good enough for enterprise security. In fact, IBM's making some big strides in this. Hortonworks acquired a company that focuses on security of big data. So that's I wouldn't necessarily go in that order, but that's another area where we're going to see a huge amount of investments to be made to make big data platforms enterprise grade. The third is reliability itself. Now, somebody from Yahoo told this to me. He mentioned where did they use Hadoop? They used it to crawl the internet. They got the information. If a few servers went down, well, it's okay because I can go crawl the internet back and get that information. So information loss was not a big deal for them in many of the open source projects that came out of Yahoo, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. But when you're going to make them enterprise grade, it's going to be an absolute requirement. You can talk about the 3:1 replication and whatnot, but how are you going to make it absolutely reliable, active, all of that is the third area that's going to drive a lot of investments from a big data standpoint to make it enterprise grade.
That's fantastic.
I think I want to add one point there, right? So if you look at, is there a clear winner from a distribution standpoint? To me, I think it's, I don't see a clear winner emerging yet. It's pretty crowded in terms of, Cloudera, Hortonworks or IBM. So we see almost a near distribution of clients across these Hadoop distributions, right? So I would think the next 18 months, as Jayant said, whoever is going to make that incremental differentiation, because foundation is the same Hadoop platform, whoever is going to make make it a more all-encompassing and self-contained solution, right? They are going to be the winners, and the winner is going to take it all,
Okay.
because the differentiation is going to be huge, and I think will be interesting times to see the next 18 months how that differentiation comes out.
That's great. And this is for you to Kaushik. So we have seen Hadoop is making significant push in the market. Adoption is increasing on a continuous basis. We also see that IBM is making significant investments and push with its offerings in the big data space to make it more of enterprise class adoption. So we have heard challenges from both Sriram and Jayant, what kind of challenges and what kind of capabilities which organizations are looking. So if you can highlight a few of new capabilities which we have as part of our portfolio, that will be great.
Perfect. So let me try this. I think Jayant and Sriram did a fantastic job of setting the stage for me, alluding to some of the challenges what we see, right? If you step back and look at it, what the adoption for Hadoop, enterprise clients want to take advantage of Hadoop for the cost benefits, obviously, but they still soon realize it doesn't meet all of their needs like what they called out, right? Jayant and Sriram were calling it out. And we also, I want to take a similar analogy. We all heard about in-memory processing for faster processing and everything. Enterprise clients want to take advantage of such technologies as well. But they soon realize how do they integrate with your existing infrastructure and make advantage of their business needs and meet their business needs. So to net it out, to step back and look at a big picture, what are the challenges for adoption, increased adoption, and making sure we have good, tightly embraced across, right? So you soon realize it'll come down to a few areas like integration with your existing infrastructure. I think Jayant talked about security, compliance to industry regulations and standards, and it comes down to user-friendly, user experience, simplicity, and performance, obviously, very important aspect of it. So in IBM, and from an offering we call as InfoSphere Big Insights, some of you may have already seen in the demo booth, one of the topmost things I want to talk about in the highlights is like Big SQL. SQL as a user interface, access to data for Hadoop data. So it's not just access to that, but I think now we've gone to the next level of saying, okay, let's federate across your existing relational stores and or your Hadoop data. So federation capability we brought into that, we announced in your latest release. And if you look at the performance angle of it, from Hive or others, if you compare, we have internal benchmarks we have seen, we have improved because of our optimizer technologies and algorithm we brought in from existing enterprise databases and into the Hadoop InfoSphere Big Insights offering. We've seen anywhere close to 20 times to 70 times performance improvement, faster performance. So that's a huge benefit, right? So that's from a SQL user access and a performance point of view. From an integration point of view, out of the box, that's been our focus. We want to integrate with Cognos, all of the BI tools you could think of, right? The top BI tools, Cognos or Tableau or MicroStrategy, etc. Not just integration with the BI tools, but we've gone beyond and said, okay, how do I get analytics like R, which is very common and very commonly adopted in this open source community, R and Hadoop. We have integrated tightly with Big Insights offering. And the last one I want to talk about, touch on the security aspect of it, which is very important in enterprise applications. There are two things. I know it comes out of Kerberos support, but I do want to take it to the next level. We said Kerberos, we enable the support to go to service authentication instead of doing manual intervention, right? We have enabled that. We have also gone and said, the fine-grained access control. Today you get that in the relational stores, but you don't have it in the Hadoop. So we went and said, how do you control the access much more at a finer level? So those are some of the capabilities we have been focusing in investing in insights to make sure it's widely adopted by enterprise applications.
Thank you, Kaushik.
That's terrific. Just one point on that, right? So, do you have any visualization engine that goes with, you want to talk about it? Because, I mean, compared to your traditional rows and columns and charting based reporting that BI is used to, right? So, you see a lot of visualization. Do you want to briefly talk about that?
Good question. By the way, I didn't pay him for that, huh?
No, he said that prompt me after this.
All right, so let's, for visualization, so we do have big sheets which comes with the offering with an Excel spreadsheet type of user interface for data scientists to use it. And now we have integrated that with Big SQL as well as Hive. So additionally, we have a Data Explorer, Watson Data Explorer, which is integrated with the Big Insights. Now it lets you to explore data and iterate to derive value out of the data. Awesome. So some of the simplicity. And then finally, for data movement, within the data movement, we have another feature we have recently shipped is Data Click, which enables you to integrate data from a single table, multiple tables, or multiple schemas across within HDFS. So that's another capability. I think these are all good ones. I mean, I don't want to steal the thunder, but I think I would encourage you guys to look at it, the demos and everything. It'll be good.
Right.
Thank you, Kaushik. I think it's very encouraging. IBM is right there to address the challenges and to address the needs. It's very encouraging. Question to you, Vishwajit. So we are moving on from the software to the infrastructure part. How do you see what kind of role infrastructure plays in the big data processing? Do you see it is really important? Because for the last couple of years, people have said, I can use the old infrastructure, I can leverage the existing infrastructure. Do you see that there is a change in how organizations are looking at investing in infrastructure?
Yeah. I mean, the importance of infrastructure in the big data processing cannot be minimized. I mean, it's very, very important because, I mean, if you'll go with the universe of data that is there, and IDC has predicted that, like, every year it's going to increase, I mean, it's going to double, right? And by year 2020, it will be around 40 trillion gigabytes of data. So that's huge. So a tsunami of data is coming our way. So even if we are going to take fraction of that rate, it is going to push our infrastructure to its limit. So taking care of the infrastructure is very important. There is no doubt about that. And if you'll make a wrong choice with the design of the big data infrastructure, it's going to cost you a lot in course of time because of the volume, the variety of data that we are going to get, the demand of data that will come. So no doubt it is important. So how we are going to take care of when we are planning for our big data applications, what kind of infrastructure we should have? We should take care of that by doing pre-planning, and as part of that, we should really cover few things. One is we should definitely make sure that we take care of the memory bandwidth. Second one is scalability. Third one is availability. And the most important aspect of the entire stuff is speed, right? Volume is going to increase. There is no doubt, because that's where a lot of our customers, face the challenges. But at the same time, availability is most important stuff, because, the infrastructure has to be reliable, resilient, no doubt about it. Then the next thing you have to take care of is the virtualization aspect of it. You have to have an efficient virtualized infrastructure, right? Then we have to also consider the I/O aspect of it, so that data ingestion is good, so that we can ingest the data right, we can move the data right, and we can access the data right? So I have addressed also the scalability, because scalability is very important from the volume growth point of view. So these are all the aspects we have to take care of when we are designing our big data infrastructure.
So infrastructure is very important in the big data
Absolutely,
solutions.
yeah.
That's great. It is to you, Gururaj. IBM flash storage systems offering has a lot of value in the analytics computing space. Can you highlight the couple of customer stories we have of people who have leveraged the flash storage systems?
Okay. Can you hear me? Is this on? Okay. So before I get to flash storage, let's talk about what is holding things back, right? In the traditional data storage, which is hard drives, the growth in the density of the devices has far outpaced the performance of the devices, because the performance of the devices dependent on the rotational speed. And you can make electromechanical things only so fast. We are already at 10,000 RPM, 15,000 RPM. You cannot make it run at 30,000 RPM, 40,000 RPM, 50,000 RPM. It does not scale. You don't want it to scale. It will sound like a hurricane. So where we already are is you have more data sitting on these devices than the performance with which you can access it. And that's where solid-state disks like flash come in big time fashion. And it is not just having solid-state disks, it has to have the right kind of performance characteristics, reliability characteristics, because it's the same kind of memory that is used in your, whether it be cell phones or cameras. So there is a lot of enterprise worthiness that has to be built into it. But having said that, also integration into the right places. So having said that, right, how has it helped some real customers? On day one, I shared the story of Coca-Cola Bottling Company, right? That was in the context of analytics. They were doing logistical planning for where they would ship their trucks the next morning based on today's sales and a bunch of forecasting, and they wanted to improve the forecasting to a much more granular level. But that increased the size of the data so much, the batch window over which they were going to do it became 14 hours. You cannot really live with that if you want to dispatch your trucks next morning. So that's where they realized one of the major bottlenecks was getting that data out of their data storage. And deploying flash storage reduced the amount of time it took by a factor of 20. And therefore, the forecasting was reduced by a factor of 4 times. So that was a huge improvement. Now that's a worldwide customer. There are reference customers. We also have we are doing a lot of proof of concepts within India. So I'll share a few of them, but they are not reference customers. So I have to anonymize that a little bit. If you look at the big data, the characteristics of that are very, very similar to bulk data access, fundamentally. So a very large private sector bank in India, based in India, your guess is as good as mine, right? Their batch window was basically growing, and they wanted to get a handle on their batch window. And by deploying flash, the IBM flash, they were able to reduce it by 45%. A major retailer, also based in India, right? Their SAP infrastructure, they wanted to build scalability, business is growing, create some headroom. By deploying the flash storage, they were able to improve the performance by a factor of 3 to 4. Another major paints manufacturer, also based in India, right? Theirs was an OLTP kind of environment, and they were able to improve the performance of their OLTP structure. OLTP also uses essentially bulk data, and that improved by about 85%. So there are real customer stories. Depending upon your interest, we can go offline and then discuss them if it is India-based, but there are reference customers.
Thank you. It's nice, and you highlighted the importance of new innovations in infrastructure as well for the big data space. Thank you. Jayant, this is for you. What kind of partnering you are seeing from your clients in incubating big data and analytics technologies into their organization? What kind of conversations and at what level it is getting discussed?
Some very interesting secular shifts in the way analytics is being run, and a lot of that is probably powered by the power of SMAC and the way technology is now available to us. what I clearly observe is analytics is now going away from being a very batch-oriented process where, you had people, churning through, volumes and volumes of data, coming out with these recommendation sheets for campaigns, etc., to making it more in the process, or what we term as analytics of data in motion. That's a very clear secular shift that I observe in the way analytics is headed towards. So if I look at it, it's basically catching or trapping a customer, if I may use the word, from a retailer or a banking context at his weakest or her weakest moment. I mean, how many times we personally have probably responded to a recommendation that has been made made on an e-commerce site, or probably an SMS that we've received based on locational services, much higher compared to some of the mail campaigns that have been sent to our email, or snail mails that have come to our mailboxes. So clearly, in the SMAC era, you will have to go to the process. You will have to basically interact with your customers, end customers, at the source or the source of the process itself. So clearly, that's a shift that we see, and a lot of customers that we are working with are moving their whole analytics engine to be a part of the process, be a part of the overall recommendation that you would go, whether it is in terms of recommendation for campaigns, fraud, predictive maintenance, whatever it is. We see a clear secular shift going in that direction. The second secular shift that we see is, a lot of data that customers our clients are trying to use may not necessarily be in their firewall. They're sourcing the data from outside, maybe social media data, maybe syndicated data, and so on and so forth. Many clients are coming back and saying, does it really make sense for us to invest a lot of our capital into creating these huge server farms and running technology to process this data and mine this data? Probably not. So why not, have cloud-based environments that can essentially be the storage of this data, and you provide us the insights back, rather than we setting up the infrastructure and we setting up the entire process to manage it. The whole buying of insights as a service is what we clearly see as a second secular shift. The third is movement away from a hypothesis-based analytics to a more discovery-based analytics. So there's huge volumes of data. In the past, it was more like, I have a hypothesis. I think I know who my customers are in terms of a seed list for a campaign. You had a hypothesis, you had 5 variables, you went and proved the variables and said, hence proven that this is the best list. Not anymore, because you have multiple data sources. You don't know what kind of variables are going to impact what kind of customers. And how do I kind of discover patterns in data is becoming the third secular shift in the way customers are looking at analytics, and technologies kind of firing that. In addition to this, of course, there is a lot of consulting work that we're doing, implementation work that we're doing in bringing in a lot of these new and open source technologies and big data technologies into the landscape of a customer, where you're creating connectors, where you're creating data lakes, where you're creating server farms to manage this. So I would see that it's in a very interesting phase here. The whole movement is going to happen more towards the process and more real time.
Okay, so it's not just processing, it is beyond processing, and they need to partner with you for a long time in order to realize the goal.
Yep. So I'll just add one thing to that, Jayant, also, is we have seen a trend, because, as you know, in big data, skills is a big problem right now, right? Getting the right skilled people. I mean, you must have read an article yesterday's Economic Times, getting data scientists are so difficult, right? The true data scientists you cannot get, So same way, getting Hadoop engineers, skilled people is very difficult in the market right now. So one trend we have seen is that people are moving towards platform as a service, offering, right? Where you do the analytics and all kinds of big data related stuff on a platform as a service, offering, so that skills is not a problem. Somebody else is taking care of that. So that's a trend I have seen also.
Thank you. I think we are running a little short of time. Let us make it a little quicker. Sriram, the question is, it's already there in your responsibility if I see that the big data, social, mobile, and cloud are the key technologies which one has to integrate to derive the maximum value. I see that already the shift because you're having that responsibility. So how do you see how fast organizations are moving in this space to integrate these technologies to derive the maximum value?
Yeah, so I think, we internally call this in Cognizant as well. It's no more SMAC, it's beyond SMAC, right? We see that organizations have realized it's not only the social mobile analytics, it's to put that to work. I see Internet of Things as a great place where we see clients looking at digital ecosystem coming into place, right? I used to run retail within Cognizant before my role. I see retailers connecting with, say, an Amex in the credit card space, as well as a travel and hospitality space as well, right? Just like we talk about smart cities, our clients look at SMAC is fine, it's the foundation layer, we have the technology area, but how do we elevate and how do we create a connected world using Internet of Things, right? So I would think the shift has come. So probably in another year or so, you'll see a next wave of it. In fact, we are talking about this code halos. That's one of the core mantra of how we see digitization. So all of us have our own halo, and we leave a trail of digital data, right? And how do we connect the dots in the digital trail very effectively? And to Jayant's point, how do we bring that analytics embedded into that? It's going to be critical, right? Which should be a layer on top of the SMAC stack. And so to Biswajit's point, right? A lot of behavioral science is also what we are looking at. And I think that's where the Watson's cognitive solution will play a big role as well. So I think we are the next wave. We should call something better. We are running out of acronyms. I think SMAC is gone. We had to talk something else. We'll soon come back with it.
So you're adding one more variable or a dimension to it.
Maybe you add an I to it and call ISMAC, when the I stands for
Yeah,
Internet of
some
Things.
things.
Maybe Apple will like that.
Yeah.
So just to quickly, so you already touched upon the key differentiators for IBM. So if you want to quickly summarize, how is IBM positioned in this market with its own big data solutions? How do you see IBM as positioned in this market? This is to you. Yeah.
I would think that, I was talking to Kaushik and a couple of folks as well. From a differentiation standpoint, right, I think you have the technology platform. The key is going to be how quickly you can integrate, deploy, and make things happen. So just before this panel discussion, we had the development environment session for cloud and big data, right? So that is where I think IBM is going to make a differentiation. So if you look at the Cloudera or Hortonworks or Amazon, I think big data or cloud happened to them because they started something with Hadoop and they saw that it becoming pervasive and they try to tap on that. But I don't think they have the muscle power or the ecosystem to make it a developer-friendly solution end to end. So, in our strategy, right, we only see two enterprises becoming true big data players, right? And one is IBM and second is Microsoft. And if you look at the heavy hitting big data, I think IBM scores out in that league as well. So long story short, I would think building an end-to-end and integrated data solution. So, this panel is about big data solution, but if you really go through a solution space, clients are going to look at how do I integrate what I already have, right? That's what large enterprises look at. And I think in that manner, IBM is uniquely positioned to bring that integration and do the whole 9 yards of data management.
Okay, thanks. Kaushik, can you highlight what kind of value our Bluemix platform is going to bring in the big data and analytics space?
So Bluemix.
Bluemix.
Okay. So let me step back. The whole notion of Bluemix is to create a platform for developers who could quickly develop, deploy, manage cloud applications in a rapidly growing ecosystem of services and runtimes and everything, right? That's the whole notion about it. It addresses the skills part and everything. So from IBM, we have delivered on the Blueplix platform, we've delivered MapReduce services, time series services, geospatial, JSON, SQL DB, etc. Quite a lot of services we have delivered. This is to help developers to learn, experiment, build applications on the cloud platform, integrate all these services together and gain insight and iterate, right? Gain insight of data and then iterate. That's the whole notion around it. It eliminates the barrier of challenges across installation issues, hardware and software configuration issues and all of that, right? Internally, what we see is on Bluemix for MapReduce, for example, a MapReduce service, you could, on a single node, you could bring it up and running within less than a minute for a developer to get that going. So if not anything, it will build a portfolio of skills. That's how I see it for
great.
developers.
Doesn't it also provide integration of the data at the back end that IBM typically deals with?
Great point, Guru. I mean, it also, I mean, at the end of the day, when it also provides the integration of all the data repositories, behind the scenes, all the work is done for you, for the developer. So it's a lot of infrastructural work is taken care of, if you may want to call it.
So the way I look at it is that commoditization is very important for the big data from a technology standpoint, right? So we had PLSQL based ETL 10 years back, and definitely data stage in Informatica commoditized it, right? So I think Bluemix is a great solution for us to commoditize and make it pervasive for developers. And that's why I think it's going to be groundbreaking.
That's great. Vishwajit, quickly you can summarize. Coupled with IBM software solutions, how do you see IBM creates value for its customers with its infrastructure offerings as well, or the hardware solutions from IBM?
So, Vinod, what I'll do is I'll tell what our customers are using, right? Because that's where I am involved, and I'll just tell on the IBM space what we use. I'm not going to touch base more on the software side, where extensively we use IBM softwares, right? Starting from IBM Big Insight to Cognos to DataStage to Netija platform, right? That's not I'm just saying about the appliances side, I got into that again. So on the hardware side, what I have seen our customers are using, and recently, in fact, 2 weeks back, we closed a big deal with an Australian customer where we have gone with, we in fact recommended, and it's a BI as a service offering. So we are hosting the customer, and we are using really IBM Power 8 server for that. We are using Cognos for that. And this is just an example of what kind of IBM hardwares we are using. We have also customers who are not only using IBM Power 8, they are using IBM DB2 with Blue acceleration technology. I have seen a lot of our customers, getting into that area also. So with that, if you are asking me about how it is better than the competitors, I'll just tell, we did some benchmarking for this customer, and around that I'm going to tell, and Dr. Rao, you can add to my stuff. So what we have seen on the Power 8 series, we have seen that it has increased memory bandwidth than any x86 servers, right? Then it has a accelerated data bandwidth. It has speed, which is there is some benchmarking done where it's showing that it is faster, 37% faster than any typical x86 system, and it uses 30% less data nodes. Then it's 2 times faster in terms of query processing, right? Or query response. Then it is faster in input-output side, in terms of data ingestion, data movement, and access. And it is great in the virtualization space also. So all these things, adding together, we in fact recommended our customer to go for IBM Power 8. It's not that we are not working on x86. We have many customers they are using that, but this is a trend I have seen also with our customers. The other side that I add is the DB2 Blue acceleration. That is, I mean, they call it like, speed up thought, right? Earlier, we used to have a typical server, where you can have a, you will wait for the result and have a cup of coffee. Now it's like, speed up thought. That's the differentiator, IBM has come up with. And why they are saying that is because of the data skipping technology that it has, the data compression technology that it has, and the parallel vector processing technologies that it has. So the combination of IBM Power Series with IBM DB2 Blue acceleration is a lethal stuff for any big data processing, right? Very fast, and there is a benchmarking done wherein they are saying that it's 82 times faster than the typical x86 machines. So that's on the DB2 Blue acceleration and IBM Power Series stuff. We have a lot of customers who are using Netezza data warehouse appliance, even though it's on the traditional analytics. I'm saying that because of its AMPP architecture, and we have also the IBM Big Data, IDA, right? The IBM Big Data Analytic
Accelerator.
Yeah, accelerated analyzer. Okay, so we are using that, a lot also with the customers. So these are few of the differentiators we have seen in our customer space.
So actually, Vishwajit touched on many points, which I thought I'll ask you, but he touched on many points. If you can quickly summarize in 30 seconds, what is the value proposition of power technology? Vishwajit has highlighted a few points already, but if you can quickly summarize in the next 30 seconds, that will be great.
So let me very quickly summarize. Those of you who were here yesterday, Anjul Bhamri, right? She gave a wonderful presentation about the big picture that IBM is working towards. There is a landing area. There is a whole variety of things. That's all fine. But she also talked about the analytic activities that happen on that. If I take a look at that and then map to what Vishwajit was saying, right? There is descriptive analytics. It is essentially, there is a lot of data, but it is not necessarily compute intensive. You're aggregating it and showing it. Then there is predictive analytics. In predictive analytics, you have to build models. And these models have to be trained, and then you apply it to production. And these are compute intensive models. They use similar kinds of things that high performance computing did. Various, vector processing and those kinds of things, Monte Carlo methods, etc. And then there is real-time analytics. I think Jayant also kind of alluded to that. When there is streaming data, right, you got to process it in real time. And while predictive analytics is compute intensive and data intensive, streaming or real-time analytics is very much I/O intensive because you got to do it like packet processing. You can't drop a packet. You cannot drop data. And then the last one is she identified as cognitive. In cognitive, you got to learn. And there are a variety of techniques for doing learning. So if you map these characteristics, what you need in a platform is it needs to be data intensive. It needs to be I/O intensive. It needs to have a lot of compute capability. It needs to be integer as well as floating point, and that requires a lot of parallelism, right? And it requires a lot of memory because Watson, for example, it relies on speed by having in-memory. And this is where the things that Vishwajit kind of pointed out already, I'll just very quickly summarize that, right? It has got 4x the thread count, and threads are faster. And by the way, there is intelligent threading, so you can mix workloads. And there is 2 to 3 times more memory. And then on top of that, there is 5 to 6 times the memory bandwidth, the I/O bandwidth compared to P7. And P7 was way ahead of any x86 platform. And then on top of that, there is internal flash that can be integrated into it. And these are all things that we have already done. But then there is this coherent accelerator processor interface. It is something that will allow anybody else in the industry to attach to it. It could be a GPU, and the GPU could share memory with, essentially, with the main processor. And you could put a flash, and that could be very high performance. You could connect it using so-called remote DMA or RDMA. You can access it very fast. So even without the CAPI-based acceleration, which has not happened yet, right, other than very simple things, the kind of benchmark that we have already seen is in a real telco, BI environment. DB2 Blue, compared to the other guys, is 86 times. And Hadoop running on a Power 8, compared to the best of breed Intel architecture, best of breed, and that's 2x. So this shows what we can do.
Thank you. I would like to summarize there are key 3 takeaways from this discussion. 1 is partnering is very important because it's a long journey. 2, organizations need to treat analytics as their fuel. All the relevant technologies, leverage both hardware and software capabilities to derive maximum value. This is how I would like to summarize. I would like to thank the panel. Do we have questions from the audience? Okay. So in the interest of time, we are getting away with that section. Thank you all for patiently listening, and thank you to the panelists. It's a wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Vinod. I'd like to request Venus Pani to do us the honor and thank our panel as they step up and felicitate them, starting, of course, with Dr. Guru Raj Rao, nearest to Venus. As the panel steps off stage, a small memento. Thank you so much. Moving on to Biswajit Das, Kaushik Bhaskar, Sri Ram Narasimhan, and Jayant Prabhu. Thank you, Venus. Thank you, Vinod.